Next, we're going to talk about American behaviors. Please keep in mind while you're abroad that you're representing the University of Alabama. Brittany's going to get into that a little bit more detail, but what I do want to tell you is that don't be a typical American. Try to blend in, try not to, some of you might be wearing your band outfits and things like that at a concert. That's perfectly fine and appropriate, but also just make sure that you're not just being loud and obnoxious and any other stereotype you can think about Europeans might have about Americans. Don't live up to those stereotypes. So please put on your best behavior. Your faculty directors will thank you at the end, and we will too. So please be good. Communication, obviously you're not going to be calling your parents too much while you're in Italy, but modes of communication, Skype is clearly the best and cheapest way to contact home while you're overseas if you have your computer or access to an internet bar or lounge. So do use Skype. There's really no need for you to get a prepaid cell phone while you're there. You're not there for long enough, so not that big of a deal. So just Skype is a very good idea for that. Press and the media, I'm just going to quickly go through that. One thing I do want to tell you guys is last year, not our school, but another SEC school, some of their students who were in Italy appeared on a reality TV show. So if you come across, and it's summertime is when everyone is in Italy, and reality TV shows are there, and they ask you to be on a reality TV show, please say no. And if they try to get you to sign anything, don't sign it, because like I said, you are representing the University of Alabama, and you are a student while you're there, so please don't do anything that would embarrass yourself, your family, or your university. And that's all I'll say about that. Responsible spending, make sure when you get there that you immediately get some local currency that you'll have, because obviously your American dollars will not work in Italy. So when you get to the airport, I'm sure that's one of the first things you guys will do. Faculty directors will make sure that you guys get to a place at the airport or close to the airport for you to exchange money. You're going to want to have some spending money in hand while you're there and do that immediately so you don't find yourself wanting lunch and not being able to pay for it. Also, if you're planning on using your credit card while you're abroad, your debit card, just make sure your bank knows, because for a lot of banks, especially Alabama Credit Union, I've discovered if you are overseas and you use your card and you haven't told them, they immediately alert you about it. So they're looking for people who are trying to scam you. So just make sure that you let your credit card company know or your bank know that you are going to be abroad, so they don't alert you and think that someone has stolen your card. Let's see. Shopping tips. Like I said about packing, don't pack too much. Don't take too much home with you. Make sure that if you are going to buy a lot of souvenirs for your friends and family, that you leave enough room in your suitcase to do so, because I will tell you that it is very expensive when you go over your luggage weight amount. They will charge you an arm and a leg for that. So unless you have the money to pay for it, I recommend that you test your luggage, weigh your luggage before you go.
Everybody needs to have an emergency plan kind of mentally in place before you go. I know you all think, and this is typical of most people when you travel, it's not going to happen to me. I've seen these shows, that's stupid, I'm never going to get into those kinds of situations. I don't need an emergency plan, and if something happens, I'll just call 911. It's not the same as it is here. So you need to start already thinking about an emergency plan and formulating that. We've actually put a guide in your handbook on page 48, Personal Emergency Action Plan. That you can basically kind of fill out ahead of time in case there is an emergency. There are a couple of things that you want to keep in mind as you're preparing to go. These are things, like I said, you want to do now, not when you get there. We all know once the emergency is happening, some of those common sense things and practical thoughts kind of disappear. You want to already know this information. Know where your nearest hospital is. Know how to get in touch with an ambulance. Know the local 911 number. Not insulting anybody's intelligence, but 911 doesn't work everywhere. Italy has their own version of 911. You need to find out now what that is. Go ahead and put it in your head that this is what their emergency number is so that you have that before you go once again. Like I said, we've gotten all these things, know where all these different things are, know your contact person, that sort of thing. In the event of an emergency, kind of what we would recommend, especially for you guys, of course, the very first person that you need to notify is going to be a faculty director. They're there with you. They know the emergency procedures. They've gone through the trainings of what needs to be done. Go to them first. Because they're on the ground with you, they can help you, they can get in contact with our office if they need to. I know this seems kind of odd, but the first person that you should call should not be mom and dad. If you call mom and dad, their first reaction is going to be what? Freak out, want to come get their baby. That's not possible. They can't do anything about it from where they are. They're only going to assume the worst, even if it's something minor. And like I said, they can't help. They may not be trained in this to be able to handle these kinds of situations. Like I said, contact your faculty director first. They're the first people. And for whatever reason you can't get them, call our office. We have given you in probably 10 different places in all this paper contact information for our office. It's on the little white card. It's on the purple sheet of paper. It's in your handbook. It's a million other places where you can find that emergency contact information. So make sure you call somebody. Once again, not insulting anybody's parents, but call somebody who knows how to handle these situations the best, because we certainly want to be able to take care of this as quickly as possible for you guys. Now, in talking about emergencies, there is a difference between a real emergency and a perceived emergency. Some of the things that we get really panicky about and say it's an emergency, in reality, really aren't. You lose your passport, you get mugged or pickpocketed. Those sorts of things, however serious they may seem to you, are not actual emergencies. Don't call 911, don't send out a red alert for anything, let your program director know, that sort of thing. Real emergencies are going to be if you are violently ill, if you are injured, if it is some kind of violent attack. Those sorts of things are real emergencies. So kind of think about that as you're making these emergency plans of what is a perceived and a real emergency. What you're also going to want to know is where the nearest consulate or embassy is in the location that you are. Going to bigger cities like Rome or Florence or Venice, you're probably going to have a U.S. embassy or consulate in that city. Know where it's located. Go ahead and write down that contact information. We gave you this handy little red card, and one of the things we put on there is the embassy/consulate phone number. Go ahead and write that down. That way, once again, if you get an emergency, you already have that number and you're not trying to scramble to search for that. They're very helpful, especially if you've lost your passport or something like that. You'll certainly want to get in touch with them. So go ahead and write down that number as well. And if something does happen to you, usually we have the Women's Resource Center come in, and gentlemen, they can assist you as well. We'll talk about making good choices and decisions in a minute, but should something happen, we have resources here on campus, whether you're abroad or when you get back, if you need to talk to anybody about anything that may happen abroad. But one of the things that they really stress to us to tell our students, and when they speak to our students, is just to make really good decisions about where you are and the things that you're doing. There are a lot of instances and crimes, basically, that can be avoided simply by making good decisions. It's common sense, really. And I know sometimes when you get in these situations when you're in Italy and everything is new and everything is really fun and you just want to try everything, sometimes that common sense slips out the window a little bit. But by using your brain a little bit, using that common sense, you can avoid a lot, pretty much all, of these issues that could come up. For instance, one of the things you always want to do is go out with somebody else. Never, ever, ever go out alone, especially ladies. Don't ever get in a taxi cab alone. Go with other people. I know it seems elementary, but use the buddy system. Always take somebody with you. Always let somebody else know where you're going. So if you and a friend, not just you and a friend are going somewhere, tell somebody else, hey look, this is where we're going. this is when we should be back. Actually, you'd be back by that time. But let somebody know so that if you aren't back, they know there's an issue. If you never told anybody where you were going, if you never let them know what time they would be back, nobody's really worried about you because they didn't know you were there. So let somebody know where you are, go with a friend, get to know locals, meet locals, that's part of the experience. I don't want to say don't trust them, but don't. You don't know them that well. You know, go out with groups, but once again, never go alone. Never think, oh, I met this guy and he seems really great and he's really nice, he's a gentleman, he's Italian, of course he's handsome. No big deal. Because that's when you're going to find yourself in those situations where things can happen. Like I said, it's just common sense sort of things that we encourage, Women's Resource Center encourages for you guys, so that you do have an enjoyable experience and can really enjoy the local culture, but at the same time you're being safe while you're abroad. Like I said, never go out alone. This buddy system lets you know where you're going. Another thing to kind of be aware of is staying as much as possible out of really large crowds. Anything that appears to be some sort of protest, riot, even if it seems peaceful and it just looks like it's fun and very Italian, it's best to stay out of those situations because you never know when those sorts of things can turn violent, and you certainly don't want to get in the middle of those. Even if you're an innocent bystander, you were just watching, if authorities come or something does break out, you don't want to be a part of that. You also understand, of course, where there are large groups, that's a target for terrorism, violence, those sorts of things. We don't say any of this to scare you, but we say it all to scare you, so that you're aware of these things, because a lot of times when you travel, you're a tourist, everything's cool, you kind of check out of that safety mentality and it's fun, but you've got to stay alert. You are not at home. Things aren't exactly like they are at home, but as you all know, big cities are big cities, here or there, so it's the same kind of safety precautions. So keep all of those things in mind as well. Let's see, also, in talking about these sorts of things, one thing that you want to be aware of are the laws of the land. They have different laws than we do. You are a U.S. citizen, yes, but while you're there, you are under Italian jurisdiction, which means that if you break their laws, even if it's not a law here, you are still held to that law and to the punishment consequences of that law while you're there. If you break that and you go to jail, we can't do anything about it. They don't care that I work in a study abroad office in the University of Alabama. They don't even care that I'm from the University of Alabama. You're in jail, and you get to stay there because you broke an Italian law. Don't make me your one phone call. I don't know any Italian lawyers. That being said, just stay out of trouble. But keep in mind those laws. If there is a drinking age there, you're held to their drinking law. Of course, with the exception that should you get in trouble with that, we hold you to our law, because ours is more strict than theirs is. But know those laws, and know that you were held to them. There's nothing we can do to help you once you get into that kind of trouble. So kind of familiarize yourself, like Susan said, as part of knowing your destination, is knowing those laws.